Welcome to Meaningful Morning. As we review our Dialogue with Dharma study, the students in our Thursday night class, they're having to speak on certain answers for around 3 minutes. They hardly make it past 90 seconds. When you tell people not to talk, they keep talking. When you tell them to talk, they all stop talking. Really, the Thursday class is like a Bolivar class. I don't even know if it's an adult class. Anyways, focus, Vivek. One of the questions that we recently studied was, how does dharma, artha, and kama, that is position, possession, and pleasure, how do they coexist rather than contradict each other? Dharma, artha, kama, for many of us, these are mutually exclusive, but how do they coexist? If this doesn't make sense to you, there's an entire course that built up to this question and answer. I'm only sharing this for you to reflect on. The answer that Yudhishthira gives, these can coexist. He uses the word bharya, which means wife. The better definition is supporter. When you have the right supporter, then it becomes clear that dharma, artha, kama are for moksha. Position, possession, pleasure, these are just means to the ends. It is only with the right supporter that these don't contradict, but rather coexist. I share this with all of us because that's what we're doing for each other. In our community, we are supporters of each other. That the reason why we are born is peace and not pleasure, possession, position. If these come into our lives, they are treated as being relative, like a game. The right supporter. We are in the 8th system of the final chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This 8th system is on composition. It is shared in verses 42 to 44. One of your applications was to chart all of these systems out. I hope this one you're charting out too. This composition is really based on whom you're living for. Those who are living for others, they have many more responsibilities. They have a clearer purpose. That's why the qualities of a thinker is 9. A leader is 7. A mobilizer is 3. And a worker is 1. The one who is living for others. Their purpose is oneness and not oneself. Then naturally they have to be more responsible, more virtuous. I hope you've also reflected on, from the thinker to the worker, there is a shift from bhava to karma. Bhava means attitude, karma means action. For the thinker, their contribution is causal. It is about knowledge and wisdom and faith. Whereas for a worker, their karma or action is about serving. Even the mobilizer, I believe it was, farming, milking, trading. You see how those verbs are more gross rather than more causal. Before I continue, how many of you are relatively clear about this system, because we're moving on? How many of you are relatively clear? Good enough. My expectations of you are very low. If more than 50% of you have your hands up, I'm a happy person. I am happiness. I try to zoom into an aspect that I feel all of us are addicted to, but we're not ready to admit we're addicted to this, and that is money. My reflections on why we're addicted to this, but we don't admit it. Number one is, if I were to ask all of you, how much money do you make or not make? You won't share. If I ask you how much do you weigh or not weigh, you may tell me, but that's much closer to is your body weight than your bank account, correct? Secondly is, and here's where we justify this, despite us studying so much about security, we still think security is external. That shows our addiction, yet lack of admittance to this addiction. And so I had shared, for a worker, their relationship with money is to earn it. For a mobilizer, their relationship with money is to save it. For a leader, their relationship with money, the one who is saving is to remit some of that to the leader. I used the word taxes yesterday. And a thinker's relationship with money, that leader is to support the thinker. To support the thinker. That's the only way a thinker relates to money, is they're supported for their thinking. Back in the day in our culture, no ashram, no mandir engaged in fundraising. All of this was supported by the leaders who received from the mobilizers, who received from the workers. Does everyone see how this social system is focused on equality? And we've broken away from that. As I transition into our next, not even system, but thought flow, please understand that composition is for oneself so that one can play their part in society. I'm reading what Pujaswami Chinmayananda has written about to end this system. None belonging to the higher groups has any justification to look down with contempt upon others who are of the lower types. Each one serves the society as best as they can. Each one must work in a spirit of dedication for their own evolution and sense of fulfillment. When each one works thus according to their vasanas and fully devotes their attention to their prescribed duties, it is said here that they will develop within themselves and attain in stages the ultimate perfection. This classification is for your evolution, and if you evolve, what happens to society? It evolves too. Coming back to our Yaksha Prashna, one of the questions asked is, how does one not burn in the heart on account of jealousy? And I had shared, it is to have the understanding or intuition that we all are a part of the whole. The thinker, leader, mobilizer, worker, they're a part. Parts are not better or worse, they're just different. I can't help but share this more personal experience. And I know we will get into a verse. We will. I was in Toronto a couple of weeks ago meeting with one of our seekers. She's joining us right now. And she offers a lot of seva to our family. And as we were leaving Toronto to come back, she had handed me an envelope. And I said, "You already do so much in terms of your effort and time. Why are you giving me this envelope?" And she had shared, "I can't come on the Kailasha Mansarovara Yatra. She can't come because she has aging parents. But it's like I'm on this precious, potent yatra. We're doing this together. And I know there's some expenses that will come up that you probably haven't factored for, Nepal, Tibet, etc. So I'm giving you these funds as if this is my part of this whole, which is this yatra." What a practice in self-development leading to societal development. I was moved by her practice. As we move to verse 45, this is it is our first of the critical 4 verses in chapter 18. This is one of the 4. Please note that. Swe swe karmanya bhirataha samsiddhim labate naraha swakarma nirata siddhim yata vindati tatshrunu. Joy. Swe means swa, but in swa, meaning in yourself, in one's own. In one's own karmani, their responsibilities or actions, abhirataha, one is to be devoted. To be devoted to your own responsibilities. Shri Krishna's so thorough in not letting anyone get lost in the previous composition, system on composition, that there is better or worse. There is not. You are born for your own evolution. Offering some practicality here. It is through swadhyaya, in English, self-reflection, that one comes to know their swabhava. Swabhava, another word for this would be guna. Through self-reflection, you come to understand what your qualities are. From that, you start to orient, you start to structure your dharma. In English, that means responsibility or karma. See, in chapter 4, when we went through the color system, it said there's a vibhaga or a classification based on guna and karma. It is through self-reflection that you know your guna, and then you come up with your karma. Based on your propensity, you should engage in your profession. Now, rarely does anyone align their profession with their propensity. Because people are short-termed, they just start to work instead of reflecting and then aligning their work with this. But if you do, next quarter, naraha, you humans, labhate, this is what you will gain, samsiddhim, perfection. Precision makes practice, makes perfection. It is through your dharma that you will feel your swadharma, that is your nature. In this chapter, it is described as moksha or peace. If your propensity is purified through your profession, you will, Shri Krishna stated this, feel peace. Swakarma, one's responsibilities. Nirataha, one is to engage in these, and through this one will be siddhim, one will evolve. Yatha, how? Vindati, does this happen? Tat shunu, listen. Listen to what I'm about to teach. If I can offer one reflection, and then I will offer more on this verse tomorrow. Rishi Uddhava, when he meets the gopis, because Rishi Uddhava thinks that he's knowledgeable and the gopis are devotional, he thinks that he's higher than they are. Shri Krishna sends Rishi Uddhava to learn from the gopis, even though he doesn't state that overtly. And when Rishi Uddhava is with the gopis, he's sharing with them, you should engage in contemplation. And what do the gopis say to Rishi Uddhava? Nahi mana dasa bisa, which means we don't have 10 or 20 minds. The only mind we had has been stolen by Sri Krishna. How can we contemplate? For someone who's understood this verse, they don't have 10 or 20 minds to look at 10 or 20 people. This is their opportunity to be with Sri Krishna, to peace. Your responsibilities. Lots to reflect on, from inspiration to application. Your application was to reflect on how do we make society less violent. My reflection on this is, if I have to kill the animal to eat their meat, I feel there will be less violence, because me having to do it makes it more real for me. Now you may all be thinking, how in the world does this relate to the Bhagavad Gita? This chapter is on practice. If you practice this, this will become more real for you. Your application for this morning is verse 45, which is one of the four critical verses. I want you to rate yourself. How are you doing with this verse? One is, you don't live your responsibilities at all. 100 is, you are only living your responsibilities. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be joy.